The kingdom of Verelia was known for its shimmering towers and golden rivers that reflected the sunrise like molten fire. Yet, behind its splendor, an eerie silence hung over the palace. For 16 long years, the royal family had lived without seeing the stars. Each night, when darkness fell, a thick silver mist swallowed the skies, hiding every trace of starlight. The people said the heavens had turned their backs on Verelia. Inside the towering castle of obsidian glass, Princess Elara had grown up under this veiled sky, never once knowing what a star looked like, only hearing about them in half-forgotten stories whispered by the old palace maid. Elara was unlike the other nobles. While others celebrated in halls lit by chandeliers, she wandered the silent courtyards, drawn to the night's strange emptiness. Her mother, Queen Isolde, forbade her from stepping outside after dusk, warning that the mist was alive. But Elara's curiosity burned like a secret flame. Every evening, she would sit by her tower window, watching the pale fog drift over the hills, feeling that something or someone was watching her from beyond the clouds. Sometimes, she thought she could hear a faint ringing sound, like glass chimes carried by the wind. It always came from the direction of the old observatory, a place the king had locked up years ago after his brother vanished there one night. One evening, while the kingdom slept, Elara decided to break the rule that had chained her all her life. Wrapping herself in a silver cloak, she crept through the echoing corridors of the palace. Every step she took seemed to awaken something ancient within the walls. The torches flickered lower, and shadows stretched longer. She made her way to the forbidden observatory at the northern edge of the castle grounds. The great iron doors were chained, but the lock had rusted over the years. With trembling hands, she broke it loose and slipped inside. The air smelled of dust and forgotten magic. Inside, she found rows of ancient telescopes, their lenses clouded with time. Strange symbols were etched into the marble floor, circles within circles, drawn in gold and silver. At the center stood a stone pedestal, its surface engraved with an inscription she could barely read. To see the stars, one must awaken what sleeps above. Elara touched the stone, and it pulsed faintly beneath her fingers. Suddenly, the entire observatory quivered. The mist outside thickened, swirling faster around the tower. A single beam of light shot through the ceiling's cracked glass, illuminating the room in a blinding shimmer. And for the first time in her life, Elara saw something beyond the mist, a glimmer. A single star, but the moment she blinked, it vanished. The silence that followed was unbearable. Then, from the shadows, she heard a voice soft, like a whisper from another world. "You should not have seen me yet, princess." Her heart froze. The air grew colder, her breath forming clouds before her face. She turned, but there was no one there, only the telescope pointing directly toward the endless sky, where the faint outline of a figure shimmered among the fog, watching her. She didn't scream, but she felt a strange pull, as if the stars themselves were calling her name. That night, Elara realized her destiny was no longer confined to Verelia's golden walls. Something had awakened, and it was waiting for her. The young traveler's name, the court soon learned, was Kael Marrowind, a wanderer from the distant Emberfall Vale, a land known for ruins older than memory and magic older than kings. Unlike the usual visitors who arrived with rehearsed confidence and loud claims, Kael spoke little. He presented himself before King Aldrich with a humble bow, his cloak dusted with miles of road and his eyes carrying the quiet weight of someone who had seen things he was not yet ready to speak of. The king, desperate for any hope, studied Kael carefully. There was something unusual about him, a steadiness, a patience, a sense that his knowledge did not come from books alone. From the very moment Kael entered the grand hall, Lyria felt an inexplicable stir within her chest. She watched silently from the balcony's shadow, unseen by all, trying to understand the strange sensation. It wasn't excitement, nor fear, more like recognition. As the king questioned Kael about the rune-marked chest he carried, she noticed how his gaze lingered occasionally in her direction, as if he sensed a presence even though he could not see her. When he finally opened the chest, a hush swept through the hall. Inside lay an array of glowing stones, old parchments written in a language of curved sigils, and a single silver instrument shaped like a slender flute. Kael explained that the items had been found deep within the ruins of an ancient temple, a place said to be touched by forgotten magic. Among them was a scroll describing a phenomenon known as the Veil of Noctaris, a rare enchantment capable of making a living soul invisible under certain conditions. The court erupted in murmurs, some doubtful, others hopeful. Lyria leaned forward, her invisible heartbeat quickening. This was the closest anyone had come to naming her curse. But Kael raised his hand gently, silencing their excitement. The veil, he said, did not happen by accident. It was always cast with intent, a targeted spell meant only for one destined bearer. The word destined struck Lyria like a tremor. She had always believed the curse was an attack, a cruel act. But destined? The idea unsettled her. Kael continued, saying the scroll hinted that the veil could be undone, but only by the one who cast it or someone who shared a spiritual resonance with the victim. The court was confused, but Lyria understood the implication instantly. Someone had chosen her not randomly, not out of malice alone, but for a reason woven into something larger. As Kael spoke, he kept glancing toward the balcony again, a subtle tightening in his expression each time. It was as though he could feel Lyria's silent presence pressing against the air. That night, the palace hummed with restless energy. Servants whispered, scholars debated, and the king paced the halls with a renewed, though trembling, hope. Lyria retreated to her tower, overwhelmed yet strangely drawn to Kael's arrival. She replayed his every word, wondering if he truly sensed her. Her solitude felt different now, no longer a cage, but a pause before something about to begin. Just as she leaned against the window, the wind shifted, carrying an eerie hum across the courtyard, the same cold whisper she heard on the night she vanished from sight. Lyria froze. The magic that cursed her was not dormant. It had awakened. Sleep refused to come to Princess Elira that night. The historian's words haunted her, echoing in the shadows of her dimly lit chamber. It is connected to ancient magic, magic your mother spent years trying to understand. The phrase looped in her mind like a melody without end. She sat upright on her bed, clutching the glowing pendant close to her chest, as if hoping it would offer some kind of answer. Instead, the stone pulsed again, just once, like a quiet reminder that time was moving forward whether she was ready or not. She felt an unfamiliar surge of courage rise within her. Whatever this necklace held, she would uncover it, determined. Elira slipped out of her room before sunrise and made her way toward the castle's oldest wing, the North Archives. This section had been sealed for years due to structural concerns, though she doubted that was the true reason. The guards hesitated when she ordered the doors opened, but obeyed after one stern glance. Even a quiet princess could be commanding when it mattered. Inside, thick dust blanketed towering shelves, and faded maps curled like dying leaves. She ran her fingers across a row of cracked leather books, searching for anything connected to ancient magic, her mother, or the necklace. Then she found it. A weathered journal embossed with the queen's crest. Elira opened the journal with trembling hands. Many pages were blank, but others contained sketches of the same teardrop-shaped pendant she wore, surrounded by symbols she didn't recognize. One sketch was labeled Luminite Heart, core of the Windbound seal. Before she could read further, a sudden thud echoed through the corridor. Elira spun around. A cloaked figure stood in the shadows, their face half hidden beneath a hood. "You shouldn't be here, princess," the stranger warned, voice low and wary. "You've already awakened something you don't understand." Her pulse hammered in her ears. Before she could respond, the figure vanished as swiftly as they appeared. Shaken but not deterred, Elira returned to the journal. Flipping to the final entries, she noticed her mother's handwriting had grown hurried, almost desperate. The last page contained a chilling line: "If the seal breaks, the songless ones will return. Protect Elira. Protect the heart." Elira stared at the words, throat tightening. What were the songless ones? And why had her mother written this only days before disappearing? Before she could gather her thoughts, the pendant vibrated sharply against her skin. The faint silver veins inside the stone twisted together into a single glowing thread, pointing, not randomly, but toward the northern forest. That evening, Elira confronted her father. She entered the throne room with the journal in hand and resolve in her eyes. The king looked older than she had ever seen him, his gaze fixed on a map scattered with reports of the northern disturbances. When she asked him about her mother, the necklace, and the songless ones, he sighed deeply, closing his eyes as though surrendering to a truth long avoided. "Elira, your mother vanished because she tried to stop an ancient force from rising again," he admitted quietly. "And now that same force is stirring." The room fell silent except for the distant rustle of storm winds. Elira felt the weight of destiny settling on her shoulders. The journey ahead had begun. The castle awoke to a tense hush the following morning. Word of the sudden magical disturbance in the night had spread through the corridors like wildfire. Guards tightened their patrol routes, scholars pored over forgotten tomes, and the king held hushed councils behind closed doors. But none of them knew the truth of what had happened, not the icy voice in the shadows, nor the way Lyria had stood inches from Kael while the world trembled around them. Lyria watched the sudden frenzy from the safety of her invisibility, yet felt more exposed than ever before. The curse wasn't dormant. Someone, somewhere, was actively watching her, influencing the magic that bound her. Kael, for his part, did not rest. He spent the morning studying the crystal stone that had reacted so violently the night before. His usually calm demeanor was now layered with urgency, as though he had glimpsed something the night had only hinted at. Lyria lingered with him, curious, but also comforted by his presence. She had never known someone to speak to her without fear, without pity, without uncertainty. The voice, Kael muttered, turning the crystal in his hand, wasn't a simple warning. It felt like a guardian spell, but twisted. As if someone built a cage around you and is watching for cracks. His words carried a heavy truth, and Lyria felt a cold not form in her chest. Later, Kael requested an audience with the king. Though unseen, Lyria accompanied him, her presence a silent shadow by his side. In the strategy chamber, Kael unfurled a parchment bearing a symbol none of them had seen before, a spiraling eye surrounded by jagged runes. "This crest," Kael explained, "is from the order of Veilbinders, sorcerers who practiced forbidden magic centuries ago. They could bend visibility, alter perception, and shift a person's presence across realms." King Aldrich went pale. Queen Seraphine clutched the table for balance. Kael continued softly, "If the one who cursed Lyria is tied to them, this is no ordinary spell. This was intentional. And likely personal." Lyria's thoughts spiraled. A personal curse? Someone had chosen her, not for political gain, not for random cruelty, but for a reason buried in the past. She felt the weight of her parents' silence, the unspoken grief they carried, and wondered if they had always known more than they dared to admit. As if sensing her turmoil, Kael lifted the crystal. "Princess," he said quietly, speaking into the air where she stood, "you're not alone in this. And I promise you, I won't let whoever did this hide in the dark forever." Something warm unfurled in Lyria's chest, fragile yet powerful. No one had ever made such a vow to her. That night, as the moon rose high, Lyria stood on her balcony, the cold wind wrapping around her like familiar silk. She closed her eyes, searching for any hint of the whisper that haunted her. Instead, she felt something new, like the soft pull of an unseen thread, guiding her attention beyond the castle walls, toward the darkened forest below. A faint shimmer pulsed in the distance, almost like a beacon. Her breath caught. The magic wasn't just watching. It was calling. Far below, Kael stepped onto the courtyard stones, looking up at her balcony though he could not see her. Their paths, once separate, were drawing toward a single point. And neither yet realized the truth. The key to breaking the curse was already moving toward them, and it wasn't a person. It was a memory. Drawn by the strange shimmer beyond the castle, Lyria found herself leaving Pearl Spire under the cover of night. Kael remained close, following the tug of his crystal stone, which glowed brighter with each step. The forest loomed ahead, dark, ancient, and brimming with magic that felt older than language. Lyria felt the whisper again, not cold this time, but weary, almost pleading. "Do you hear it too?" Kael asked softly, though he could not see her. Lyria nodded instinctively before speaking aloud. "It's guiding us." Her voice trembled. The forest wasn't dangerous. They were being summoned. Deep within the woods they reached a forgotten clearing, its heart marked by the ruins of a circular stone arch. Vines crawled across its pillars, yet faint light flowed through the cracks like breath from a sleeping giant. As they approached, the whisper returned, sharper now, rising into a faint echo. Kael lifted the glowing crystal toward the arch, and symbols flared to life across the stones. Lyria felt the ground shift beneath her, felt magic tightening around her like threads, pulling her closer to the center of the ring. Then the voice came, echoing through her mind with a clarity that froze her blood. "You were hidden to protect you." Lyria staggered. Protect her? From what? In the center of the arch, an apparition formed, faint, shimmering, as though made from moonlight and memory. It was a woman. Her features were blurred, but her tone was unmistakably sorrowful. "Princess Lyria, you are not cursed. You were veiled." Kael stepped forward, stunned. The apparition continued. "Years ago, a faction of the Veilbinders foresaw that a great threat would rise against your kingdom, a threat tied to your bloodline. They vowed to conceal the one who would stand in its path. You. The invisibility was meant to shield you until the prophecy matured." Lyria felt her heart twist. She had lived half her life believing she was broken, when, in truth, she had been hidden for survival. But the apparition's voice darkened. "The Veilbinders fractured. Some sought your protection, others sought your control. The whisper you hear belongs to the guardian spell woven into your veil. It warns, it watches, but it is weakening. If the veil breaks without intention, the threat will find you before you are ready." Lyria stepped closer, her voice trembling but firm. "Then tell me, how do I choose to break it?" The apparition lifted a hand, gesturing toward Kael. "Your veil responds to resonance. You may break it only in the presence of one whose spirit aligns with yours, one who sees you not with eyes, but with truth." Kael froze, realization dawning across his face. Lyria felt warmth surge through her, fear and hope intertwined. Lyria took a deep breath. Then she stepped into the center of the arch. The magic wrapped around her, threads of light tightening like silk. "Kael," she whispered, "I need you." He moved beside her, lifting the crystal. Its glow burst outward, washing the clearing in radiant white. The veil shuddered, strained, then shattered in a brilliant cascade of light. For the first time in years, Lyria felt sunlight on her skin, felt herself seen. She looked down and gasped, her hands, her face, her body, visible at last. Kael's breath caught, awe softening his features. Behind them, the apparition faded with a final whisper. What was hidden is now whole. Lyria returned to the castle as dawn broke. The kingdom rejoiced. The veil was gone, the danger revealed, and the princess, once a ghost of her own life, walked proudly into the world again, not invisible, not cursed, but chosen.